In that great getting up morning, fare ye well, fare ye well. In that great getting up morning, fare ye well, fare ye well. In that great getting up morning, fare ye well, fare ye well. In that great getting up morning, fare ye well, fare ye well. Now, y'all in the Gullah Geechee Nation, and we together. Boys, take some time. We praise God. We thank God for we ancestors and things like that. Rather us, we thank God for bless up all this your land where we do stand. So this your day. We the call upon 100 children. But take some time, but join me right now. But just take a moment of silence before we start up. This year, we're 100 yet about who we be. And this year, sustainability. Right here in this your land of the Gullah Geechee. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Thank you for all the 100 children who done joined me this year day. And now, Shanna Lee, going on and welcome the family.
Hello, 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 everyone. It's nice to see you all, or virtually. And we're just going to start off with Audrey. I don't know if you want to take over here.
I can. Hi, y'all. Welcome and thank you for attending our panel on cultural sustainability. We are the Gullah Geechee Amplify team. We are students at Abbott Lawrence Academy attending the Merrimack Early College program. So we're juniors, but we're taking some college classes. To start off, my name is Audrey Wells, and I will be introducing my team members. Laura Garcia will present the introduction for us and speak more on what we do and our purpose. Then Kimberly Castañeda will be introducing Queen Quet. Once the presentation is done, Shanali then will be hosting the Q&A and we'll be hearing more from our representatives to finish off.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are well. My name is Franjala Garcia, and my peers and I are currently taking a politics course and have been tasked with a civic engagement project. In this project, we help the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition expand their culture and raise awareness of the environmental issues that affect their community, ranging from projects that build awareness to the spaceports and sand mines that affect the Gullah Geechee community. We have worked on social media posts and graphics that address these issues. Additionally, we're working on children's books that expose the younger generation to Gullah Geechee culture and history.
Hello, my name's Kimberly Castañeda, and I will be introducing Queen Quet. Queen Quet is an environmental justice advocate, a preservationalist, and the founder of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, an advocacy organization dedicated to the continuation of Gullah Geechee culture and preservation of their language, history, and heritage. The organization also works towards the island's conservation and reacquisition. In 2007, Queen Quet was invited by the Office of the High Commissioner of the United Nations to present before the newly founded Minority Forum as a representative of the Gullah Geechee Nation and the International Human Rights Association for American Minorities, which is an organization in consultant with the United Nations. Since then, she will continue to represent the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition with her involvement in many more organizations. Apart from being an activist, Queen Quet is also a published author, a computer scientist, and a mathematician. I'm happy to announce that this week is also Queen Quet's week.
Well, thank you for welcoming me and things like that, and all of that. So glad that all 100 children there with me for Celebrate Queen Quet Week. I'm so glad for this year and so glad for had this your time here with the Gullah Geechee Amplify team. But even more than that, I so glad for day today with some people who we done shout together, we done march together, all kind of thing like that. And I will introduce them to 100 children now. This year day, we got with we not only members of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition that done join in this year circle for yeti but who we be, but we also got we representatives going south of where I did right here in South Kakalaki and thing like that. But next door, the Georgia, the Golden Isles, the Coastal Empire, we want to welcome our representative, Anita Collins. How honored to be, Sister Anita, what going on?
Greetings, Queen Quet, and it is an honor to be with you today, particularly since this is Queen Quet Week. As always, what's going on in Georgia is not enough, but we are always honored to be in your presence and to share something that will hopefully enlighten and inspire others about our culture, about our way of life, and who we be.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And then we could keep going on down south some more. We to get to Florida, almost out to Gullah Geechee Nation all together and things like that. But it got in there now. It got in there. Just north Jacksonville, Florida, where the Gullah Geechee Nation and things like that. Or we got this town called Yulee, and right to us next door called O'Neill. We got representative from Right Yonder, Sister Glenda Simmons-Jenkins. How honored to be, what going on?
I do well. Peace and blessings, Queen, and peace to everyone. Glad to be here. We're just blessed to be a part of this panel.
So glad if I had on ya and for had this your time for crack we tweet a little bit with the children, but who we be right here in this your land of the Gullah Geechee. So now that we done introduced them, I yet he say Shanley but done got some question and thing for ask we, and the other rest of children will join we in this your circle. We glad he can go on and type them right on in the chat and thing like that, and we going to get to all the questions on half of we too. But going on Shanley, what you want to crack your teeth with we about this your day?
All right. To begin, I'd like to start off with asking you all, what brought you all to do what you do today as environmentalists, activists, justice advocates, and more? Like, what caused you to start what you do today?
Well, I can say what started me off doing what I do today, and I've been at this over 40 years now, it's been 4 decades plus, was adults that said, you have a gift and we need you to use it. We are out here trying to raise money for this land right now, and we're gonna have a fish fry, or we're gonna have a rally, or we're gonna have this community meeting, and we need you to come up here. We need you to write a speech. That was the first thing. Then it was, oh, you dance. Okay, you sing well. Yeah, we need you to put something together. And I started putting together skits and presentations to educate the larger community about the issues, but in ways that they would find more engaging than somebody just stand up there making a speech, And so people started saying, wow, I like when she does it, because then I get what they're talking about and it's not boring. So that's what started me into it. And so over the years, that's why I named myself the artivist and created a word for what I do, because I do my activism through the arts. So Representative Collins, you want to tell her what got you into all this?
Growing up here in Brunswick, Georgia, I knew about Geechee people, I knew about Gullah people, and always recognized them in my childhood thinking that they're one people. However, it was being around older adults when I was told that we were, but we weren't. Geechees do this, Gullahs do that, and it was just a source of confusion for me. So when I learned about the work of Queen Quet, I met her briefly at a festival on St. Simon's Island, and really what that festival was is the annual Sea Island Festival on St. Simon's Island, Georgia. I met her briefly there and followed that with going to one of her conferences in Charleston, South Carolina. And I should remember the site, but I cannot. I know Queen Quet may remember it. But anyway, and just started getting involved in the work with the Gullah Geechee Nation. And in terms of activism, it's just something that I don't really call, I guess it's called activism, but it's just being me in terms of being engaged, because as a resident in our community, I think we should be engaged. And I've always been engaged, involved, working in the community, even as a child. So that's in a nutshell how I've been on this journey now for I don't even remember the year, Queen Quet. I know it.
I know that's right. Can't even keep count, right?
I can't keep count.
Exactly. We can't keep count at this point.
No.
Yes.
But it's been a long time. It was shortly after you became our queen.
Got you. Yeah, but you've been doing stuff like you said way before that.
Oh, way before that.
Way before that. Yeah, before we connected together and started working together. Yeah, way
Yes.
before that. So yeah, Representative Simmons-Jenkins, you want to tell them about your journey? Because I know it's been a long journey too with you.
Yes, it has. Well, in my youth, I wouldn't say that I applied the term preservationist or environmentalist to who I was. However, when I think back on growing up and some of the things that I would hear, my parents, my mother in particular, they were always talking about civil rights and the issue of race and justice. Those were just things that would come up in my home.
Mhm.
And so growing up, I always had my ear turned toward that. I would be and let me say it this way. My class was one of the first in my community to be in an integrated setting from kindergarten on through. Like my sisters, they started off in segregated classrooms, and then integration happened, and they transitioned to that. For me and my generation, we were in integration from the beginning. And I mention that because I was a child who was like one Black person in a class of white students.
I know that.
And I would get, and so what would be incumbent upon me is how do I elevate my identity when it would be so easy to kind of blend in with everyone else? You've got Black students who don't know why you've been pulled aside. You've got white students who are building a relationship with you but aren't really sure how to navigate that. But I bring it up because I was a student who would, when I do my book reports, I'd always look for a book that maybe was written by a Black person or to focus on a Black character or someone in history.
Mhm.
So that's what I remember about my early activism, for lack of a better word, is just saying, I'm a Black person, I'm proud of that. How can I make that more prominent in my school and where I am? And so I'd run for office and do all these other things.
Mhm.
I came to understand that I am Gullah Geechee in culture and heritage many years later, after college. And then after my first professional job, I became vegetarian. And that kind of was in alignment with where my life was going to go. I was beginning to look at what I was putting in my body. I was beginning to pay more attention to the environment at large. And then by that time, I had given birth to my daughter and moved back home. I went to the big city, Washington, D.C., Maryland area, and then came back home. And upon returning home is when I met Queen Quet. And I met her at the home of one of our most esteemed elders, who's now an ancestor, the beach lady, Marvin Betch. And when I met Queen Quet, I had been carrying around sort of a burden about my people. And it was somewhat of a vision that God gave me, that they needed to be remembered at the ocean and at the shore. And when I shared it with Queen Quet, she said, oh, I know, you mean an ancestral tribute? I was like, oh, is that what it is?
Mhm.
And she said, yes.
Absolutely.
And in the process of that conversation, she said to me, well, you'll go Geechee too. And I was like, I am? And she said, yes. And so my journey from that point to this has been reconnecting myself, reconnecting my community. Not that we were completely severed and disconnected, but just bridging the gap between our knowledge of who we were and the separation that happens when you lose contact and you lose touch with that. And I can tell you, not specifically, but I can tell you that it has been nearly 20 years, because that was about 2002.
Right.
So that's been my journey. And I will add this, when we began with Queen Quet, we were doing heritage and history and cultural, we said preservation, but we understand it now to be sustainability. And since that time, we have evolved to a broader environmental position. It was always there, but now the focus has been more deliberate. So that's been my path.
Yeah, excellent. And Representative Glenda Simmons-Jenkins, I'm not sure, but there's something that seems sounding like a tin rattling, like almost like wind blowing on tin when you speak. So you might want to adjust where you're speaking to, because it might be touching something that's making that rattle sound as well. We could hear you, but that was also happening as if we had a little drum roll going behind you, little drum roll. So that was happening. So what you got for us next, Shanley?
All right, next question would be, are there any specific, let's say, college majors or opportunities that strike you as impactful, or like, this is my time, this is my moment that I need to use to further myself in the future?
Well, I would definitely say science. And science is very broad because we are going to need more scientists, whether they are computer scientists like me, engineers, which I also studied, that are going to focus on the environmental issues that you have us talking about, like for instance, being in robotics and creating mechanisms by which the ocean can be cleaned of all the plastic debris. There are some people working on things like that. Also, of course, with renewable energy, that's another field to go into. So environmentalism, and some colleges now have degrees in environmental studies and sustainability. So these are all fields that are of interest right now, that I think when we talk about the greening of the world are going to become even that much more valuable, one might say. So I would definitely say look into the sciences for sure. That we're definitely going to need that. Any of the others want to respond as well?
I would also encourage you to study what interests you at this time. And the reason that I said that is because I don't know what anyone's passion may be. However, learn, embark upon something that you're passionate about. And definitely, because this is about sustainability and culturalism, tap into those areas. And the reason that I said that is because it takes you down so many paths. For those of us who live on the coast, the Southeast coast, whether it be South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, or Florida, we have grown up with a thing called pollution.
Right.
And as a child, even though I've grown up around companies that for example, paper mills and paper and pulp mills, chemical companies, it just never occurred to me as a child that these same companies were polluting the water and the air. And that is what has happened to our communities. So regardless of what you study, be passionate about it, and it can lead you in many ways. Be it art, be it writing, be it science, be it math. You can really, any of these areas, videography, any of these areas, you can get into sustainability and environmentalism, and which encompasses so much. So Queen Quet is a scientist, and therefore she's going to say science. So, but for me, I'm just saying, be passionate about what you choose to study, and it can take you where your path leads you.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I was going to mention just having a passion too, but since she asked me for a specific field, I just figured I'll stick to what I was being asked. So definitely, you know me, I'm always about follow your passion. So yeah, Representative Jenkins, do you have anything you want to add or suggest? You the writer here, you go that way.
I would agree, and let me know if my audio is any better.
It sounds
agree. It is better, okay. I would agree that your interest will make room for you down the path of taking a role and being active in bringing justice to how cultures have access to the environment and that we don't abuse it. However, I would also specify that political science, law, and anthropology are all very good subjects or studies to embark on, because we have attorneys now who are actually litigating cases in which the environment is the defendant, or the environment is being taken to court as needing protection. It's being seen as a vehicle for bringing about less abuse in the world to the air and to the land. So the law is very important. Political science, we need folks who are going to be able to walk in the halls of government, be it local, state, or federally, and speak on behalf of these issues. And of course, I said anthropology and anything that has a cultural bent to it, because so often people are not engaged in speaking on behalf of or in concert with cultural groups. And we need people to advocate for us. So those are the support.
And as Sister, yeah, excellent. And as Sister Keisha has said in the chat, planning and zoning are critical issues. So GIS mapping, geography, all that ties in. And when you're saying anthropology, there are different divisions in anthropology. So cultural anthropology is a very specific group, and they have done a lot of pushback for the general field of anthropology to make sure that cultural voices are heard. And I know that in some arenas, some people who are socio-anthropologists have joined into that, because it's a sociology and anthropology. And again, wanted to make sure the community voice is heard, as Representative Glenda Simmons-Jenkins is saying. So we're all part of the Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank, and we work with geographers. I personally work on a lot of zoning, as Sister Keisha is mentioning in the chat, because I am a person of the community who can recognize where the sustainability efforts need to be placed, because anytime you do have zoning and planning worked on, or you have geographers working on mapping, you need devices, you need money. You have an idea, you put together a plan, they can vote on it, but are they appropriating funds to it? So there goes the political science folks got to come in, the lawyers got to come in to say, yeah, if you agreed you're going to do this, now we got to push you to put the money where your mouths are or where this document is. So there's all of that that's necessary. And that's where coming in to amplify via videos, via artwork, via t-shirts, via posters, that the artists and the creatives, as we call it now, actually create those things to put it out there, or take our voices, soundbite them, and put them back out as a song. I'm waiting for the day that somebody send me a meme of myself singing or something like that already. So these things help to, as y'all say nowadays, amplify the message, and also to get the plans in a way that is not planned by outsiders, but the insiders. Let the community do their planning themselves. And that's very important, no matter what community we're talking about, not just with the Gullah Geechee Nation. So I appreciate Keisha adding that to this conversation. Go ahead, Shanley, what you got for us?
Okay, so we're just gonna backtrack a bit based off of one of the questions that one of our members came up with. And it was basically saying, you guys have mentioned the importance of cultural sustainability. Why is knowing and sustaining our culture important, and what does it mean to you?
Ooh, why is knowing and sustaining your culture important? Because you can't sustain something that you don't know about. So you have to live it to be able to sustain it. If you're not even living it, you can't talk about sustainability, because you're not sustaining something if it is not there in the first place. So first, you have to know that you have cultural activities that are part of your community, that's a part of your culture, your family, your people around you. Those things that are the lived experience that then get passed on within your sphere of existence, that's the things that constitute culture. And just for throwing down the water and things like that, but can you go on and that crick on and thing like that and bring something back for we down pun and thing like that. Can you go on and field you want to know which one did it weed, which one did it for thing for we down pun. So you have to know a variety of things to be able to say, okay, this is culture, that's music, that's language, that's foodways, that's traditions. So once you know that, It's, you'll know that you know, because you live it, you walk it, you are it. Now the thing is not to let someone take it from you. That's where the sustaining comes in. That's where the continuation of culture comes in. So that's why when you heard Representative Simmons-Jenkins mention that before, when we started off, we talked about historic preservation, cultural preservation, but we realized very quickly, it's not about putting something in a jar, lidding it tight for other people, come look at it, till they want to screw the top off and expel it, and then it's gone. But no, you want continuation. So, but you can't continue it if you never started it. So your elders and your ancestors started it. They teach you about it. If you are mannerable enough and open enough to learn it, you retain it. You retain it, you start living it before you realize you are. You end up passing it on. That's the way to keep it going. So even if you are now in the realm of the ancestors, you know somebody you left behind will live it out as well. So that's cultural continuation. So that's where the sustainability comes in. That's why it's so important to know it and then sustain it so that it'll continue to exist in the future.
And I would say also, all peoples and cultures are here because God placed us here. And God wants us here, and we have a right to be here. And therefore, as a member of a particular culture, I want to do what I can to make sure that my culture remains, because we have something to contribute to the whole. It's very easy to want to, for lack of a better phrase, make everything vanilla. And I'm just using that as a metaphor, you know, just one flavor and there are no differences. The reason that there are so many different cultures is because that helps us to know what each individual group can contribute to the whole. One of the first speeches or sermons I ever heard Queen Quet give was about, in our community, in our village, everyone makes a contribution and everyone eats. You know, someone brings a different dish to the meal, but everyone eats. And so that's how I feel about cultural sustainability and the importance of making sure that all cultures are recognized as having a relevance and of the ability to exercise self-determination. Is there is something that I can gain from other cultures, and there's something that we can all gain from each other by working together. And that's why it's important.
There has been a myth that Gullah Geechee culture is dying or has died. And it was news to me.
Me too. And I did write you, and it been news.
And so I guess if you believe what researchers and some scholars put out, if you believe everything that they put out, then maybe folks will accept that our culture is dying or has died. So I say that to say I am Gullah Geechee. And a few things that I've noticed in just observing people is that one of the things we want to know when we meet someone is who you be.
And it all.
And because it's very important, and this is why for young people, it is very, very important that you know who you be. So what do I mean by that? Know who your grandparents are by name, and maiden names for the women. Know who your great-grandparents are, because that is something to pass on and pass on. And the reason that I work with young people is because I want them to ask questions, just basic questions about who's in their family line, who they stem from in that family line, and what is that connection. Because growing up in this small town where I grew up in Brunswick, Georgia, a younger person asked me, what was so great about growing up in this little town when you grew up? And I said one word, a sense of community. I felt embraced by the community. And it was a community of Gullah Geechees as well as folks who were not Gullah Geechees, but they all looked like me. And there was a story there that bound us together. And that is crucial, it is important. And it's also what Queen Quet has just shared with you, as well as Representative Jenkins. So for us to sustain our culture, yes, we intend to do so, but we also have to make certain that our younger people understand why it has been sustained for so many years and why it is important to know how to fish, whether you like to fish or not, but you may need to. So it is important that you have a garden. We grew up with a garden. We grew up with chickens, and we always had food to eat. I've never been hungry a day in my life, never. Well, that's not true. I've had hunger pains, but I've never been hungry because I've always had access to food. So for us as a people, we always had access to food. We always had this, we always had that. We shared with others. So if someone killed a cow, guess what? Your family partook of that cow. If someone killed a hog, the family partook of that hog. When someone planted rows of greens, they shared. This is very basic to who I am as Gullah Geechee, and I think all Gullah Geechee share that in common, whether they recognize it or not. So yes, we do sustain it, and yes, we are sustaining it. I never thought I would be growing a garden. But, and it's not how much it is, but it's the fact that it can sustain you and you can share it with others.
Absolutely. And Sister Anita, as they always said, when somebody kill a hog, the whole island blood pressure be going up. Okay, because you know, everybody was eating a piece. If you had but a slice of bacon, or you had the pig foot. So definitely, you know, what you said brought that statement back that I hadn't heard in a minute. So yeah, Shadley, go ahead.
All right, next question is, what, if any, are major current projects that you and your community are working on?
Well, I never tell people about what I'm working on. I let them see it. I rather show it to you better than to tell you about it. So definitely I work in silence and then let the success make the noise. And so, but I will say this, that currently in terms of what is going on, not so much that it's a project, but what is going on that is ongoing. And I'm so thankful to this entire team that's here today, because you all have been such an active part of it, is simply the protection of our sacred lands in a number of different ways, because all of you on the Gullah Geechee Amplify team have helped us to raise the lens and turn the light on brighter on this issue of sand mining in our cultural communities right near burial areas. So right now, I just found out on Sunday that there's desecration of one of my family burial areas, and we have our first viral video that's out there on the Gullah Geechee Nation Facebook fan page. It's also on gullahgeechee.tv on YouTube. It's been being tweeted all day about the fact that someone has come in, and this is an individual this time. It's not a destructionaires company where people have done this before, but it usually are these large corporate interests that want to put a gated area and they want to put a clubhouse right on top of burial areas. So this has been an ongoing problem, not a project. And so it is definitely something that we continue to battle to make sure that our sacred lands are protected. And by protecting the lands, we also protect the waterways. And so because we believe the family that we did, the land that we family, and the waterway that we bloodline, I say it over and over again. And so this is something that is ongoing. And so I don't consider it a project, because a project to me is something somebody assigned, you get it done and it's over with. This is what we've all been saying. This is our very lives that are at stake. And now it is also the very sacredness of the land that is at stake. And so right now, if there's anything that I take pride in working on at this moment, is the reunification of all Gullah Geechees. You heard Sister Anita talk about how she knew we were one, and then others start telling her we weren't as Gullah Geechees. And we have some younger people now that don't have that knowledge and understanding and overstanding of the unity that unifies you, what you have in common. That's what our community consists of, is knowing that. And so the project, one might say, is the continued education of the next generation of why you unify and why, if you don't know your history, you're destined to repeat it. So if you participate in division, then you are participating in a practice that helps destroy communities. So educating young people about genocide, educating young people about COINTELPRO, and propaganda. Those three things tend to work in collaboration to destroy communities of color when they are revolutionary communities, to try to disrupt, disturb, dismantle. And we work against that because we stood on our human right to self-determination as one unified nation. And WEBE, Gullah Geechee, anointed people. So this is an ongoing battle, and this is an ongoing thing to make sure to save our lives and our land. So it's not a project for me, it's who I be.
I would add to that, a major component of what Queen Quet said is education. So we're always doing whatever we can to make sure that our community understands what makes land ownership in particular so important. It's all related to environmentalism and cultural sustainability. We want to give our people opportunities to understand that land ownership is key. When you own land, you can feed yourself, and in order to feed yourself things that are healthy, the earth needs to be healthy. And without access to the land, you lose control of what goes into your body, and you're forced to go to someone else's marketplace for those things. So yes, it's all, for me, I focus on education as a major aspect of these initiatives that Queen Quet has spoken.
Go ahead, Shanley, what else you got for me?
All right. Is there any major things or problems that you wish to find the solution to, or how should I say this? Anything that you want to accomplish in the future? Like major things that it's like you find the drive for, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, everything you say makes sense to me. I was ready with my answer the first way you said it. So for me, unity and upliftment of the Black community worldwide. That's the major. When you say something major, that's major to me. And so definitely that is something that if we could find a solution for the end to post-traumatic slave syndrome and Willie Lynch syndrome, and to stop having every generation have people willing to be COINTELPRO operators, then I would be happy, and I would truly be, I would live in bliss to the end.
Oh, Ashe.
Yeah, same for me. I don't think I can add anything to that.
Well, you know, Glenda, it's just like when the question was posed, I had my answer. Because we know what it's like to live in this Black skin every second of the day. And I just had this conversation today with a friend, and we don't live in isolation, okay? We are open. By that I mean we are welcoming. You know, Gullah Geechees, we know we welcome people to sit at our table. Sure, just don't be disrespectful while your feet is under our table. That's right. Regardless of your culture, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your race. So I've never, and I never will understand hatred and racism.
Right.
I will never understand it.
Right.
And so when Queen Quet said unity, I mean, all I'm doing is sitting here, you know, like
rocking, ready to hallelujah. Yeah, you ready? I'm with you. We in the praise house, yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, I mean, thank you, Queen. You know, I mean, because that's it. We know it. We live it. We understand it.
And Shanley, as you get ready to ask the next question, I just want to add so the audience is well aware where Representative Collins is. Brunswick, Georgia is where we had the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery is Gullah Geechee. So for her to be right there where blood spilled, where national and international attention came, Jamie Foxx was on the radio yesterday talking about how he not only was there with George Floyd's family, but he had also spoken to Ahmaud Arbery's father, and how he tried to describe how he talked. And I was like, come on, Jamie, come on with it. Just he spoke Gullah. You ain't know the word, Jamie. Come on here. And he just, he just had the basic Southern language, and that's how he ended up saying it on D.L. Hughley's show yesterday. I was like, Lord, please get me to talk to Jamie. Jamie, I need to talk to you, son. You got to get this thing right. It's just like Tavis Smiley years ago came home to coastal Georgia and then said how some of his family members were talking and he couldn't understand a word they were saying because they had a different dialect. I'm like, Tavis, I'm hollering in my car. Tavis, as intelligent as you are, you don't know to say Gullah Geechee. That was Geechee, boy. You need to get that down here so you can get it. Oh, great part. So yesterday I almost felt the same way because I've been working on something that before the virus Rona showed up, and we pray that when it's all said and done, we'll go back to it, that we had an indirect link to Jamie. So now I have a conversation I'm going to have with him when we do get directly linked for sure, to say, please, Jamie, in the future, when you get the people are cracking teeth like this, no, see, that a Gullah Geechee, huh? And just Southern talk, all right, or Southern language. But it, even in the midst of it, I was still proud to hear him talk about our people in such a positive way. And it is because of what Representative Collins has said, because we're open and we're welcoming. We embrace people. And sometimes as a result of that embracing, people don't want to leave here, and hence ends up with the other problems we've been talking about, overbuilding that lead to problems and infrastructural problems and water problems and pollution problems. I mean, even the president now of the United States, he made it clear. He kept coming back to Charleston after the murder of more Gullah Geechees at Emmanuel AME, God bless the dead. He kept coming back because he was healing here. And I said, yeah, that's because he's being embraced by the love that Gullah Geechees have, the joy that we have, the spirit that we have, the circle that God has blessed us to have. That's why the center of the Gullah Geechee Nation flag is a circle. And then there's a circle in that circle. And in the midst of it is a tree of human bodies intertwined that Hunter can't tear we apart and things like that. And we rooted in this just soil. And as I always say to people, Hunter must take care of the root to heal the tree. So even though we know sometimes those roots have some blood on them, sometimes blood spills out, but it's to let toxins go. And when you heal, you're that much stronger. And so that's the thing. I didn't want the moment to go by for people to not realize where we are and where we're coming to you from, because you sometimes don't make these connections in the news because they don't say Gullah Geechee. But yeah, this year where we be, from Jacksonville, North Kakalaki, down to Jacksonville, Florida.
That was a lot.
I
That
know.
was a lot to unfold.
Yeah.
Going off of what you were just saying, I would like to ask, what are main obstacles or challenges that you have faced, or you and your community have faced, and even are possibly still facing?
The main one is destructionment. People coming in from the outside, not having dialogues with the community, not recognizing where sacred and historic areas are, places that we would never build on, directly into the marsh, directly into the ocean, that now have caused a domino effect of a number of the negative environmental impacts that we see. Everything from the rapid erosion of the coast to ocean acidification. These are major issues. And then the heat island effect in the urbanized areas. So those are ongoing major issues that tie back to many of the issues we talked about earlier, like the desecration of burial areas.
I would add to that legal representation and the lack thereof is a challenge that I see. in the sense that when you're dealing with destruction meant, you really need people who can represent you and who are willing to do that pro bono, given the fact that justice is not free, unfortunately. And the kind of justice that you receive is based on your ability to pay in many cases. That's an unfortunate aspect of our criminal injustice system as it shows up so often. So that's what comes to mind for me.
The only thing I would add is what is being said, but our land, holding on to our land and helping our generations after us understand why the land has always been so important to us. And as I remember my grandmother saying to me, there'll never be any more land. This is it. And how people were able to, who were so poor, but were able to save and scrimp and pay property taxes. And we just need to keep working to help our younger generations understand why that land is wealth. And wealth and land are powerful.
Absolutely.
So we know that we just have to keep sharing the love of the land for everybody to understand why it is so hard and why we have, when you just said pro bono, Representative Jenkins, it was because so many have lost fights because
couldn't pay the lawyer. Or the lawyer ended up with the land because they couldn't pay the lawyer. That has happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. They say that we are land rich and cash poor more often. Yes. People make that statement.
Yes.
Because we were a communal community. So we did bartering. We didn't need what the US uses as so-called legal tender. Legal tender was that same piece of bacon we talked about earlier. And somebody had made those. We needed dollar bills and
we didn't need dollar bills.
No.
Didn't need dollar bills. Exactly. And your word is your bond.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. It's crazy when we think of imagining a world without money or currencies of the sort. It's like, how would we be? But moving on to the next question.
I love what you just said. Shannon Lee, I love what you just said, because that was quite a powerful question. You know, just imagine a world without having the cash thrown into the mix. And how can we still maintain ourselves without it? So, yeah. So that's going to be your challenge.
Isn't it? Yeah, sure is.
Okay. Next question. What has been the most impactful moment of working with the Gullah Geechee community, and how has it helped the overall initiative of the organization?
Which organization? The Gullah Geechee Sea Island?
Well, yes, we wanted to generalize. Yeah.
Okay. So for me, of course, the most impactful moment for me in the Gullah Geechee Nation's history was the day that we declared ourselves a nation. And I was actually installed, and that was July 2nd, 2000. Now, how my installment has impacted the work as founder of the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, which the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition is older than the Gullah Geechee Nation. The Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition will be 25 years old come this December. And so it's a young person. So here it is that it has lifted and elevated what started out to be first an organization for Gullah Geechees to speak up, and then quickly finding that people across the US were concerned about the same things and about us keeping our culture. So then it became known internationally. And then it got more, as y'all would say again, amplified internationally because of all the international press around the Gullah Geechees making world history in instilling their own leader and stepping forth to be the first group of Black people in North America to ever come together and declare themselves officially as a nation with a homeland. And I want to make that clear to people. We are not an organization. The Gullah Geechee Nation is a nation like the United States, like France, like Canada. We are a nation. The Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, the Gullah Geechee Angel Network, the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Committee of Northeast Florida. These are, we have CDCs, those are organizations. So sometimes people conflate it because they hear the word nation, and especially in the Black community, people are accustomed to hearing about the Nation of Islam. Well, there are chapters of the Nation of Islam inside the Gullah Geechee Nation, like their churches and synagogues, but those are all organizations. We are actually a nation. So that getting that elevated has also been something major that the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition has been able to do. Elevated human rights and law has really been the thing that changed for us in terms of what we thought we were going to just be fighting for land and land retention, and then learning that we had to use human rights law. That was a major turn of events, and we've continued to go that route ever since. Who's up next?
I would say the major impact for me in working with the Gullah Geechee Nation has been seeing my community transform and recognizing and acknowledging themselves as Gullah Geechee. I had another thought in mind, but then that one came to me. When we first started doing this work, we'd say, okay, everybody, Gullah Geechee, come on. And it would be like cricket.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now we say, Gullah Geechee, come on. Or if something comes across the timeline that says Gullah Geechee has anything to do with where I live, O'Neill, Fernandina, Yulee, people will call me or message me and they'll be like, is this you? Is this we?
And it all.
Or is it somebody else? So
Sure.
To me, that has been a major impact to show that the work that we started all those years ago has had influence in helping people to really reclaim their identity. And that has been a really, really valuable thing to see happen.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
All right, that's all that took. And I want to answer Sydney's question because Sydney had a follow-up to what we were talking about land. Sydney wanted to know, was the land at one point just owned collectively, essentially, and then divided up? Yes, that's what happened. So let me give you a short background. During the 1860s, which is the period of time between what is called chattel enslavement and then going into the Civil War, and then the end of the 1860s, we entered into what was called Reconstruction. So during the Civil War, many Gullah Geechee families obtained land. Some obtained land through Special Field Order number 15, which is what some call 40 acres and a mule. You can go to gullahgeechee.tv, gullahgeechee.tv later on, put in Queen Quet and Special Field Order, or put in Queen Quet and Sherman, and these things will come up and y'all can watch and learn more about that. So some people got their land because it was a land grant, but then they got it revoked because after the assassination of US President Abraham Lincoln, who signed the Emancipation Proclamation, then some of those families' land got taken back by the people who had been enslaving those people previously. All right. So in my family's case, on both sides, they actually went to land auctions during the 1860s while the Civil War was going on in the US and purchased the same plantations that they had previously been enslaved on. They bought them. And now they became the rightful owners and had deeds to it. So we still own that property. So it is, you ask also, is it by family? Yes. So in the Gullah Geechee Nation, the property is owned usually collectively by the family. And it was meant to stay that way from 1862 forward. The last line on the deed said, and their heirs, meaning people who aren't even born yet in 1862. When y'all do come along, this is still your land. Well, why did Representative Simmons-Jenkins bring up lawyers? Why are we all bringing up lawyers? Because lawyers are tricky creatures, and I know some of y'all are here today. And so they figure out ways to change the law to benefit their clients. So they started piercing the veil of that law to get people to buy the interests of the heirs, and then you become an heir when you're not related to that family. And then you can now bring the family members to court because you want to actually sell their land. So it is a legal land grab that is going on. And you can go online again. If you follow us at GullahGeecheeNation.com, you go to GullahGeecheeNation.com, and I'll drop it in the chat as well. And then when you get there, in the little search box, put up heirs property, H-E-I-R-S, heirs property. Then you will be able to see a number of things and watch videos and listen to audio and things like that, or recordings that'll explain that legal term to you some more. But yes, the land collectively was gotten in the 1860s. We got deeds. Then ever since, there has been an onslaught of different people who went in the legal system or murdered people, or murdered people, or murdered people to obtain their land. There's been trickery in courthouses. There's been trickery with land surveyors. There's been trickery with county council, town council people, state government people that were all part of groups that were racist groups that said that, quote, these Negroes shouldn't have this land, and worse words than that, okay? And so that has been an issue where this taking of land back out of the hands of the children of those who had previously been enslaved has been an ongoing thing, to take the land away from those of us who also have indigenous ancestry. That was first done to many of our ancestors who are indigenous. Some of them fought and worked with the Africans, and that's why we look like we look now, but are both indigenous American and African. And then it continued into the Reconstruction era with the formation of groups that would come in and terrorize families and do things to them to try to get them to give up land. It continued into the segregation era. So people started fighting from the point of civil rights, as you heard Representative Simmons-Jenkins mention earlier, but we long then realized, people realized in the 60s, it's not just about civil rights law, it's about human rights, because you have a human right to be able to continue to live a life with a certain quality to that life. And you have a right to be the heir to owning something of your own that you can have food security on, and that you can just have personal security on. You have that right. And so definitely the land at one point was all in one, and over time, as families grow, if you got 10 kids and you only have 5 acres of land, your kids got to find land somewhere else likely. So that ends up where you have other family compounds and they're grouped in different places, but that is how it works. But we still historically have always owned from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. We could establish those boundaries because that is the area that was also not only federally recognized as a place where the law said all the land will be issued to, quote, the Negroes, and no white shall dwell herein, but it also is the place that there's family compound after family compound after family compound of the same people who the cracky teeth like this year still lived in same kind of weird of going out, you want to forget the fush and thing that Representative Collins been a cracky teeth out a while ago and thing like that, still behind that garden and thing like that, still are doing the same kind of way. So they could determine through anthropology, sociology, history, DNA, biology, all these things, these are the same people. And then it's there in the documentation for the courthouses that never got burned down, that you could still find the original records and keep tracing back into the 1800s. So that's why you see we have the Gullah Geechee Land and Legacy Fund. We have that on GoFundMe. We also have People can donate through Cash App to $ Gullah Geechee Nation to help families still hold on to heirs property, but now put it into legal other means like LLCs to protect it for future generations until some lawyer come along and find a way to try to do something to that, because they're always trying to find a way to do something else. Yes. Again, sustainability. You got to have it to sustain it. So we got to have the land, we got to retain the land, then we can sustain the land.
Okay, there's another question in the chat by Kimani. Correct me if I said that wrong, but it's asked, okay,
Oh, yes.
Is the creation of family land trusts a viable solution to the problems caused by the non-titling of heirs' property?
Yes, it is, Kimani. And if you go to gullahgeechee.tv and you put in Clifford Bush and Queen Quet, or put in Queen Quet heirs property, that's one of those videos where we had one of our legal minds go ahead and talk about that. And we also will be having him back on my regular weekly show, zooming in on sustainability, coming up within the next couple of months. He'll be back on there to talk about that topic a little bit more in depth. So definitely.
Okay, and last question as we begin to close off. What message would you like to give not only the youth, but the attendees here today as we near the end of the webinar?
I would want to say to all the folks attending today is to always find a place of peace where you can just settle into it. You can breathe in positivity. You can breathe in love. You can breathe in joy. You see, we've had some laughter here today, even though we're discussing a topic that normally sometimes people want to yawn about, you know. These are things that are going to help sustain you. And you have to be able to sustain you first to be able to do the work that we're charging you with being able to do. So definitely, I would say to you, physician, heal thyself. Once you center yourself in that healing energy, it'll radiate out from you and it will go into everything you do, whether that's touching the land or touching another person. And we all know with a year of social distancing, I think folks are ready to be touched, but in a very positive way.
I'll go ahead and add, when Gullah Geechee people are free, then all people are free. And your interest in advocacy today by being a part of this program indicates that you understand that there is something more that you need to know. We have to all be open to continue to learn, to continue to educate ourselves. So I'll just say, stay on the path of learning and educating yourselves. Stay on the path of being open-minded. It doesn't mean that you have to agree. It doesn't mean that we have to all necessarily join hands, but it does mean that if your heart is open, that the truth will speak to you. So that is what that's my message.
I would just like to say thank you to our panelists and to our organizers for this webinar today. And just the word, what Queen Quet said in response to the question, peace. And I connected with that word, humankind, because we need peace in order for kindness to just saturate our spaces in every respect. And I am honored, as I said before, to have been with you today. I am appreciative of all the questions that have been asked. And I hope for each of you that you know how sincere we are about the work that we do. And we thank you for respecting us. And we look forward to the next time we gather in a webinar or whatever setting it may be, virtually or face-to-face. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And I just want to say thank you to the Gullah Geechee Amplified team. You all did an outstanding job. As you are learning, to want to say, well, we're learning, but we want others to learn with us. And so you wanted to bring in this circle and expand our circle of connection. I'm just proud of you. You did such a wonderful job today. And I just wanted to tell you that in front of everybody here, not just when we meet again privately, because it is a wonderful thing to know that there's another generation that's not only curious, but you are creative and you are active, you're activated, and you're ready to work. So we want to thank you on behalf of the Gullah Geechee Nation and the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition for hosting this today and for being here, and even for Shanley grilling us like she thinks she George Foreman and whatnot with all the questions. It has been such a beautiful way for me to celebrate this Queen Quet week. So I just want to say thank you to you and send you love, peace, lots of blessings, healing, and safety wherever the honor to be. Thank you. And we dropped a number of things in the chat so that people know how to follow me. So y'all can stay tuned because we gonna have another one of these y'all show coming up. So follow me at Gullah Geechee on Instagram, at Gullah Geechee on Twitter. I know y'all say how you spell that. Gulllah. Geechee is Geechee. Ain't a no I in Geechee for the we. So Gullah Geechee on Twitter and Instagram, and Gullah Geechee Nation on Facebook, as well as GullahGeecheeNation.com. So if you follow those, then you'll be keeping up with all we're doing. And then follow GullahGeechee.tv and find those episodes and learn a little bit more about what we talked about today. Thank you, Shanley.
All right. Thank you so much for all your time, the information, and just being here, really. We learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone can speak on their behalf of this great opportunity.
Thank you so much for the team today. You don't know how much joy I'm filled with my heart, because we're able to be actually involved in making a change for at least not only the Gullah Geechee people, but also people all around the world, because although the problems that Gullah Geechee people are facing, we know that many other people are facing around the world as well.
Yes.
And being able to be here is just a great opportunity, and I appreciate you all for that.
Thank you so much, Frangel. Yeah,
I also,
and I just want to repeat, because I know on my end, Frangel got a little robotic at times, and he was saying y'all don't know how much joy is in his heart for him having the opportunity to be a part of this, and that the Gullah Geechees are faced with issues, and they're happy to be a part of being part of change and to help us with those issues, because so many other people around the world are also faced with these same issues. But it brings joy to his heart that he has a chance to be able to be part of this change that we're making together. I didn't want that message to get lost because it sounded robotic. I wanted to amplify it because it's so valuable to hear a young man say something touched his heart, and to say that outright. And so definitely I heard it and I feel you. I feel you, Frangel. So definitely hugs to you and the whole team. So go right ahead, Kimberly.
I was just gonna say that I'm very appreciative because like you guys were saying, we are the future, and you don't know if any one of us could be in Congress, could be like part of like the legislative branch, can be like some sort of leader, either that be like through the arts or through politics, or any one of those fields, through science. So it's really important for us to continue to learn about Gullah Geechee culture and learn how to preserve the culture and the lands, that when we grow up, we know how to represent you guys.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I'll be right there at your office lobbying for stuff. You know, I'm gonna be right there. Don't get brand new on me. Yes, thank you so much. Audrey?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm so thankful for this opportunity as someone who has struggled like with their culture and like who I am and my identity, like getting a chance to help you guys and see the work you're doing and how it can touch younger people who want to be a part of this is really touching, and I'm really grateful.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I love the way you said that, Audrey, for younger people who want to be a part of this. Because as Sister, our Representative Collins said earlier, we're always welcoming. Our arms are always wide open. And for younger people, we're always there to help guide. But as she also said, you got to have manners. When you get a seat at the table, you got to have manners. As we said, no manners child on tears, no grace. And so when we see that, then people don't get to remain in the circle. And so they think that, oh, that's not fair. But no, but there has to be respect. Respect is due to everyone. And so you definitely want to come in humbly and get the respect going. And that's how you build relationships with anybody, anywhere. And so trust me, as you've heard us say earlier, Sister Glenda Simmons-Jenkins and I said almost in harmony, your gifts will make room for you and take you before great men and women. And as we say here, and manners going to take on where money can't. So definitely always keep that in mind. Have manners. It's going to open doors and y'all going to go places y'all ain't even thinking about right now. I am a living witness. God will definitely bless your journey. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody who took the time to be here today.